This decapitation was a post-mortem event, so yes, after death.
I believe your term was homicidal violence.
Yes.
But you can't tell us how this person died, correct?
That is correct.
It was a single, straight blade of some sort. And then the second one is a mechanically powered saw.
The severed head was not there. There wasn't, I should say, hardly any blood spatter or anything throughout the room that you may initially think due to the fact that the head was missing.
The love triangle beheading trial resumes today out in Las Vegas. We're taking a closer look at the timeline. Could defendant Devyn Michaels really have pulled this gruesome murder off? Plus, a teen dies aboard a Carnival Cruise ship, the mysterious death now being investigated by the FBI. Also this hour, spotlighting the murder of Sandra Birchmore, a former chief deputy now blaming the victim. And quadruple murder suspect Austin Drummond facing the death penalty, but is there really enough proof? Did he do it? All next, right here on Opening Statements. Good morning and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Ted Rollins in for the week for Julie Grant. Good to be with you on this Wednesday. Busy day here at Court TV after the Veterans Day holiday. The courthouses are all back up and running. Big day in Vegas as the case against the former porn star continues. We're going to preview that, what's coming up and what we've seen so far. Plus, that mysterious death on the cruise ship. 18-year-old high school senior dead. The FBI is involved. We'll get into that as well. Let's start, though, the morning as we always do with the Daily Docket.
We're doing multiple searches and that we're utilizing our partners at the FBI that have some really, great equipment, training, experience, people, all of those things. We're coming at this investigation with from every angle and with everything that we have access to.
We have not been able to locate the child as of yet.
In California, mom Ashley Buzzard has an arraignment hearing unrelated to her daughter Melody's missing persons case. Melody's still missing. The hearing gets underway 4:30 p.m. Eastern. Hopefully some answers in that case. In Florida, a brand new trial starting today. We're calling it the Troubled Orphan Murder Trial. The defendant here, Dima Tower. He's accused of brutally murdering his adoptive parents, Jennifer and Robbie Tower. Opening statements begin in that case, 9 o'clock Eastern time. We'll watch those together. And in Nevada, the state's case continues in the love triangle beheading trial for Devyn Michaels. And that is our lead story this morning on this Wednesday. Did the defendant have time to pull off this gruesome murder? We're talking about a beheading here. The former porn star accused of bludgeoning and beheading her ex-boyfriend, Johnathan Willette, in a love triangle. Remember, she murdered the boyfriend who fathered her 2 children. Then she married his son from a previous marriage. Devier is his name. The defense says Devier, he's the man with the motive. He's the man. He's the guy with the power tools. He's the guy that did it. Investigators say that Michaels said that the victim spent the day together, that she spent the day together and with him, and then left him in the garage around 9 o'clock. The problem is the digital data. It always comes back to haunt these defendants. Michaels moving around the night of the murder, and it is all there. Let's take a look at the timeline. 10 o'clock, victim's phone last recorded at his home. 11:30, victim's phone, final cell tower record at the murder scene. This is at the murder scene at his house. 2:04 a.m. now, Devyn's Nissan Armada and her phone, plus the victim's phone, all leave the murder scene. A little bit later, 2:28, that Nissan Armada stops at the CVS pharmacy, and this is the big problem for her. A solo female driver is confirmed via surveillance video. 2:42 a.m. surveillance shows the Nissan arriving at Michael's home. 2:44 vehicle system records the end of the trip. 2:45 victim's phone arrives at Devyn's phone. All that Google Wi-Fi data. Bottom line is they seem to have her. Let's bring in criminal defense attorney and civil rights attorney Casey Early. She's with us this morning, and criminal defense attorney Franz Borchardt is also with us. While interviewing Devyn, Franz, this the problem here, because if you look at this case, you're thinking, there's no way this lady pulled this off. How could she have murdered him, chopped his head off with a power tool, and then gotten rid of the head? But the surveillance video, the phone, the tracking, it does lead, it seems, to her. Your thoughts?
So if you're defending her, you've got to continue to hammer that you can't check common sense at the door, and despite all this overwhelming evidence that seems to indicate that she did something, it doesn't just allow for us to leave common sense at the door. And again, Ted, sometimes the case is you make arguments, you do the best you can as a criminal defense attorney, but man, oh man, is the forensic evidence really damaging.
Yeah, and Casey, what are your overall thoughts of this case, and specifically the phone, the tracking, the surveillance video at the CVS, and how it does really seem to implicate this former porn star?
First of all, when I think about all of the evidence that's against her, I'm wondering, why are we even here? And then I remember she had a guilty plea, and during the plea colloquy, she was so emotional that even the state was willing to tell the judge that they wanted that plea to be withdrawn due to some issues that could have possibly came forward during the appeals process if she would have taken this plea. There's overwhelming evidence, and there's a thing called corpus delicti, where you just can't use the confession unless you have independent evidence that the crime has been committed. And there's overwhelming independent evidence. Just like you stated, we have the cell data, the forensic evidence, we have the motive. Everything is there to point to her. So you may not know exactly how he died, but we know that she was capable of doing this. She had the motive. And, the cleaning agents, why do these defendants try to clean up such a gruesome crime? It just suggests that a crime was committed, and a host of other forensic evidence. So we know that not only is the confession coming in, but all of that overwhelming evidence to secure a conviction.
Yeah, I mean, a headless body, she couldn't deal with that. They found that. She took the head. She actually did a pretty good job of cleaning up. Take a listen to this investigator saying there's no blood spatter here. Pretty good clean job.
Was there anything unique or interesting about the blood that you saw at the scene?
The blood at the scene was primarily limited to the space of the bed itself. The way that the body was positioned on the bed, the torso and the neck were up towards the edge of the bed, and then the severed head was not there, so the neck was exposed. And then the blood itself there was some that had come down from the body directly straight down, but there wasn't I should say hardly any blood spatter or anything throughout the room that you may initially think due to the fact that the head was missing.
And just to be clear, there was no blood spatter that you saw?
Correct.
Franz, the defense, or the defendant, told investigators initially that she was giving him a massage, and she has this plea deal. She was all in on. Everybody thought they convened one day in Clark County, Nevada, thinking, all right, she's going to accept this plea deal. She goes off and goes crazy. They say, whoa, we better go to trial. At the end of the day, now we're at trial, Franz, and the defense is blaming the boy. Where do they get that? And I mean, it makes sense that you could conjure up that, but being so aggressive for this defendant, saying and blaming the son, I mean, as a defense attorney, I get you're trying your best, but is that over the top?
Well, one, there is no such thing as over the top when it comes to being a criminal defense attorney, and you're zealously representing your client's rights, right? And there may be a lot of different things at play, so the viewers understand it. You may be dealing with a client who is insistent on that defense, and even though the defense attorneys get to make the decision and the call on that, look, if you're trying to paint the Sistine Chapel with crayons, Ted, you do as good of a job as you can do. Now, is it distasteful? Is it emotionally traumatizing to the surviving family? Sure, absolutely. Unfortunately, that's the trade-off of the justice system. Is sometimes, while we're zealously representing our clients, sometimes we do things that are emotionally insensitive to the surviving victims' families, and that is just a necessary evil of our system, our adversarial system. And like I said, is there ever such a thing as over the top as a defense attorney? Well, yes and no.
There's a moment where Devyn Michaels is speaking to police, and her son, her child, brings the cell phone, which has blood on it, to her of the victim. Take a listen.
While we were interviewing Miss Michaels, we are engaged in our conversation. To be honest with you, I'm not sure which of the daughters, their names I still get mixed up. She had approached the window, and she has the cell phone that we believe is the one we previously saw in the driveway. And she says, "Mommy, here's Daddy's cell phone. That's why he didn't answer." There was a physical reaction from from Devyn, and she takes the phone, she hands it to us, and she made a comment, "This should help you." And then that's pretty much changed the tone a little bit to casual conversations to then it became a little bit more flustered.
Okay. And is it at that point where you noticed the blood on the phone?
Correct.
Casey, another bit of evidence against this defendant and the awkward interaction with the daughter. If she takes the stand, the jury gets to hear about the plea deal, right? Or what she has already said to police about this? Casey? Oh, Casey is frozen. We could read her mind, Franz, or you could just answer that question.
So it generally, the plea colloquy, if she made admissions during the plea, unless there's a law that says that stuff's not coming in, it's fair game if she takes the stand. But if she takes the stand, is the defense response going to be, "Hey, look, I'm emotionally unstable right now, and I would have told you where Kaffa's body is, and I would admit to any crime because I'm so emotionally unstable." Now, in the absence of some kind of expert testimony to support that, it's going to look really bad, right? And I would hope that she doesn't take the stand. The defense attorney in me hopes, Ted, that she doesn't take the stand, but who knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, she seemed to be off the rails in that pretrial hearing, and she may insist that she wants to get up there and explain the things that has been done to her, because she had some accusations against the prosecutor saying basically that you're changing everything and lying. We'll see. The boy, he took the stand. He wasn't stellar. He was uncomfortable, and sometimes uncomfortable comes across to a jury as you're hiding something. He was just, sometimes he was confused with questions. He denied having anything to do with the murder, but he just wasn't. And you get it. He wasn't comfortable. He's being accused of murdering his father. Do you think they have a chance with this defense that this kid did it? And here's why: because he has access to power tools. He's a man, and he had the rage and jealousy because he was in love with the porn star, and he didn't want his old man taking his girl back.
I mean, is it possible that it could work? Maybe. Is it probable? Unlikely. And look, again, having tried cases where there's not a lot of room for defense, you do what you can. But I just don't see a jury buying it. And look, the prosecution can clean up the whole the testimony not being necessarily as if he were an expert witness, having testified 1,000 times, by talking about how people get nervous. And people get nervous, and when they get nervous, they do things, and it doesn't mean they're lying necessarily. It just means that they're nervous. And, and it just doesn't make sense that this kid did it where there's so much other overwhelming evidence that suggests that she did it.
Yeah, just you need the jurors to put that CVS video on loop in their head. A lady in a car at 2 a.m. with both phones, hers and his, and no one else in the car. Big problem for the defense. They'll be back at it 2 p.m. Eastern time, 11 o'clock in Vegas after that Veterans Day holiday yesterday. Coming up on opening statements, a story that is making national headlines. It's a heartbreaker. A teenage girl goes on a cruise her senior year in high school. She ends up dead. The FBI is investigating. We'll talk about the mysterious death when we return. And Sandra Birchmore, a liar? Well, that's what a former officer is saying about the 23-year-old, the latest in her Massachusetts murder case.
Mama tried. Now my daddy's crying because I'm in here.
You are the common denominator that led to JD and Big Doug shooting each other in the dark of night.
All right, help party, I'm dying.
Don't you have the blood of both these men on your hands?
I feel guilty for that.
You felt guilty because, frankly, you were guilty.
Interview with a Killer. New episode Saturday night at 8 Eastern and Pacific. Only on Court TV.
A family is looking for answers after a high school cheerleader is found dead on a cruise ship. 18-year-old Anna Kepner was reported dead while aboard the Carnival Horizon cruise ship on Saturday. The straight-A student was set to graduate in May. Now, her family is hoping to learn more about her passing. In a statement on Monday, the cruise company confirmed the death of a guest, which we later learned was Kepner, saying in part that their focus is on supporting the family of our guest and cooperating with the FBI. The FBI has opened an investigation into Kepner's death once the ship returned to Miami. The cause of her death has not been released, pending an autopsy here. So what are the next steps in this investigation, and what happened? I mean, it's a mystery. You've got an 18-year-old in seemingly good health, goes on a cruise ship, is getting ready to begin her adult life, and now she's dead. And there are questions. Here to discuss criminal defense and civil rights attorney, Kesia Early is back, retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer, and private investigator Manuel Gomez. Manuel, what's your gut on what happened here aboard this cruise line?
Well, unfortunately, my gut feeling is that this was a homicide because of you see all the FBI equipment that showed up, and this is the indicators of there was a homicide here. But the unfortunate thing is that this is something that happens quite frequently on cruise ships, and people can go on the Department of Transportation website and right now, and you can see from January 2025 to March of 2025, they reported over 23 rapes, a dozen suspicious deaths, and numerous assaults. Everybody thinks they're safe on a cruise ship. You're not. All right, you have to act like you're walking through Manhattan and keep your guard up. Unfortunately, people don't, and this is just another sad victim in this case.
Jennifer, you know, people think, ooh, FBI is involved, but really that's the jurisdiction of the FBI, the international waters. That's, you could argue that there could be no foul play. This could be maybe a drug overdose or a natural death of somewhat. The FBI being involved doesn't mean foul play. Is that correct?
That's 100% accurate. First of all, if it happens on a plane, a train, or a boat, it's the FBI's jurisdiction. And that includes all violations that occur on those vessels. So no matter what, if a death occurs on an American ship under an American flag, which this one was, the FBI is going to be charged with handling the death investigation.
The investigation really, I mean, a part of this is obviously the autopsy, which apparently has not either been done or the results haven't been publicly released yet. Kesia, what do you take away from this? Because it does seem so odd that an 18-year-old who just ends up dead on this cruise ship, it's not like, you know, she had documented health problems that anybody's heard of. What's your take on this case?
It certainly makes it more difficult, and it is a mystery because her age, obviously young. She had recently passed a test to enroll in the military, so we know that she was healthy. Like you stated, there were no previously documented conditions of her health declining or deteriorating. So you want to think, like, is there a possible motive? What possibly happened? And in this case, the autopsy can really reveal if there was any foul play. We know that she was also active as the varsity cheerleader. So this is kind of like, we don't know what happened. And it also makes it complex. As you stated, this is international waters, different jurisdictions. You have the FBI, you have other agencies. So it's right now in the phase of collecting evidence, analyzing that evidence, and waiting on that autopsy report.
Here's what her family said, part of a statement released by the family, saying about Anna, she was a people person. She loved being around people. She had that type of energy that just drew you in with her smile. She was already talking to recruiters, as Casey had mentioned, and had chosen her career path. She wanted to do something that would help her community. Manuel, to your point earlier, you get onto a cruise ship and there is a sense of security because you think, oh, there's just a big floating party and there's no bad guys here. But that's not necessarily the case. What are the steps in terms of investigating this besides the autopsy? What else would the FBI be doing here?
Well, I just want to say one thing before I answer that, and that is that on these cruise ships, they don't have law enforcement. Okay, they only have security guards that are loaded with mace, an asp, and a taser. So you're not secure. And unfortunately, these cruise ships need to do like we do with our U.S. planes, and that is have an air marshal assigned to each one of these cruise ships so that they can keep some type of security and have somebody that understands homicide investigations and investigative techniques, because their security guards are not trained in that. That's the first of all. And second, their security guards, their main purpose is to protect the cruise line industry. And that's the problem with a lot of these cases. You know, there's a law right now on the books, which my colleagues can maybe confirm. It's called Death on the High Seas Act of 1920. Okay, that act right now only lets the cruise ships pay only $15,000 to someone's funeral costs. So in essence, the cruise ships, they're not even going to pay you $1 million for this girl dying. And like the other people said, she's 18 years old. She's strong and healthy as a horse. This girl, in my professional opinion, was murdered. This was not that she just laid down and went to sleep and died.
Jennifer, these are like mini floating cities, and like a city, there are surveillance cameras. One would think there's likely lots to investigate, and we did see, to Manuel's point, the FBI team boarding the ship. What are they looking for? What are they doing to either rule out or take next steps in an investigation like this on a boat?
Right. One of my last investigations in the Virgin Islands was a death aboard a ship, a homicide. And you walk on, you're completely closing everything off, closing the crime scene off. They're going to have a cadre of individuals to help conduct these interviews because so many people, there are so many potential witnesses, and also the video footage is going to be looked at. But I'll tell you what, having done one of these cases, this video footage is difficult because it doesn't shoot every square inch of this boat. It's typically not on the balconies. It's typically not on every stateroom. And so there are a lot of crevices and nooks and crannies that sometimes you can't get the footage that you actually need. Also, typically, there might be locking mechanisms that report when somebody goes in, but not when somebody exits. There are all sorts of issues. Also, that time frame between the time she was found and the time they reported into port. Typically, at times, a crime scene can be very adulterated by then.
Great insight there. Yeah, things you don't think about. I guess for privacy reasons, it's not like there's a camera in every room. The hallways, all that. We'll see. Right now, waiting on the autopsy, and we're waiting for any developments. We'll continue to monitor. Manuel, thank you. Enjoy your Wednesday. Still to come, a former cop playing the blame game when it comes to Sandra Birchmore. Plus,
it's critical that the public know that, one, this is not a random act. There was an act after the event that we believe shows some humanity. And so we're appealing to that piece. As inhumane as the situation is.
Austin Drummond, quadruple murder suspect facing the death penalty. Did he do it? Was he alone? Other people involved? We'll break it down. Stay with us. This morning, the spotlight is on the murder of pregnant 23-year-old Massachusetts woman Sandra Birchmore. She was found dead in her apartment back in 2021. Now, a former deputy chief connected to the case appears to be blaming the victim. Former Stoughton Police Detective Matthew Farwell is accused of killing Birchmore and her unborn child and staging her death to look like a suicide. Here's the video of them coming and going at her apartment the day of her murder. Birchmore told her friends that Farwell was the father of her baby, but a DNA test proved otherwise. Whoever fathered that child, it wasn't the defendant in this case. Now, you have to go back to when she was 13 years old. She's part of this Stoughton Police Explorer program, and prosecutors allege that she was sexually groomed by Farwell and possibly others. However, he's the only one charged. Now bring in this guy, former Deputy Chief Robert Devyn. He lost his job over allegations that he had a relationship as well with Birchmore. He was running the Explorer program, and now he is trying to keep his peace officer's license.
And after SB's death, do you know how long it took before you became aware that you were a potential suspect of the internal affairs investigation?
Sir, I didn't know a damn thing. Even once I got called in for my interview, I wasn't told anything. I got put out on administrative leave, and that was the first I knew of anything. I was shocked. I got called in on my day off to hand in my badge and my gun. And my response, and I'm sure Chief McNamara could tell you, was pretty friggin' shocked. I had no idea what was going on.
Devyn has not been charged in connection with Birchmore's death at all. He told the panel that Birchmore lied and that he had never had any sexual relations with her. And his goal now is to keep his license, basically, to be a peace officer. He's lost his job over this, obviously, but he wants to continue being a peace officer. Here to discuss, retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer and former head of the Homicide Unit in Norfolk County, Massachusetts. Our friend Rick Grundy is there. Start us off, Rick. If this was a, first of all, how much play does the Birchmore case get up there in Massachusetts? How, because this is another case, post Karen Reed. There's a lot of focus in this area in terms of police misconduct, misbehavior. Fill us in about how many eyeballs are on this and the pressure involved, especially when we're talking about allowing this individual to maintain his license. How much external pressure is there because of the Birchmore case?
Well, I think there finally is some, and it's due to the strenuous efforts of the family over a course of many years, far too many years. And the net is even tighter than that, Ted, because as you know, this is Norfolk County again. This is the same investigative. And again, I can't stress enough that in Massachusetts, the district attorney's office has troopers assigned to it. They are a part of that office, and they answer to the district attorney. So the district attorney is in charge of all homicide investigations, soup to nuts. So this is the same Karen Reed investigative body that is involved in this Birchmore case, which happened many years before. It's a possibility, and it hasn't been officially discussed at all, but that the federal U.S. Attorney's Office became involved in the Birchmore investigation prior to Reed, and some of what they discovered during that investigation caused them to take a very close look at the Karen Reed case, including in convening a grand jury. So the eyes are finally on it, largely because it was apparently so ignored and alleged to have been, at this point, so ignored throughout the years.
Jennifer, this video showing the defendant, in this case Farwell, going in and out, this was ruled a suicide, and it's sort of swept under the rug. And now it is front and center. Now we do have a defendant. What's your take on Robert Devyn trying to maintain his license to stay? He's never going to get his old job back, but he wants to still be in law enforcement.
Well, look, The reason he was surprised was because he thought he would never be called to the carpet for the situation that occurred with Sandra Birchmore. The problem with his statements is it doesn't match up with the evidence. He is linked to another account under a bogus name of communicating with Sandra Birchmore. He and several others, remember, it's not only Farwell that has already been implicated in having these sexual contacts and relationships with her, but Farwell's brother, a K-9 officer, he's already admitted to it. This chief needs to have a come to Jesus with himself and admit to what he did to Sandra Birchmore, and that was have a relationship, totally separate from the homicide, but he had a relationship with her. That's what the evidence says.
And he ran the Explorer program at that point. And Richard, the allegation here is that he, and along with others, sort of took advantage of this 13-year-old when she joined it, enthusiastic, had a tough home life. She was an easy target, and these adults took advantage of this young girl. Do you buy that? And what do you think about the license for former Deputy Chief Devyn? Should he still be able to be a cop?
Well, no, absolutely not, under no circumstances. However, let me just say that Devyn is putting out to the press, and I picked up probably just locally, that he has no interest in being a peace officer again because, and Ted, you'll enjoy this, he's gotten his law degree, and he's not looking to be a police officer anymore. See, he's a now practicing attorney. But I think, you know, one thing, as I said, the eyes are finally on this case, but bear in mind that those eyes are limited because it's a federal prosecution and not a state prosecution. And when it comes to federal prosecutions, no cameras in the courtroom are just one of the prongs in the forks of secrecy that are there. I intend to be there in court for most of the hearings because of that, because we're not going to get a full picture. And because evidence is still being developed, I think a cover-up is very much being looked into. And what we know at this point in time is that the charged individual is not the father of this baby, but nobody's come forth to say, well, I had a perfectly healthy, legitimate relationship, and I am likely the father of the baby. So somebody out there may be getting some news that is going to drag them into the spotlight more so, and that somebody may be a Stoughton or former Stoughton police officer.
Yeah, that would be massive. Jennifer, would that be something, given all of what we know about this case, identifying the father of that unborn child, is that important?
Well, it depends. It's important if it is one of these Stoughton police officers. I don't think it's important if it's somebody that she was just dating as well. So, well, it's going to be important to the defense, right? Because they're going to completely victim shame her. We're already seeing this. It's really despicable. These Explorer programs actually are great. The FBI runs one in all the different offices, and they're wonderful opportunities to teach about the FBI and law enforcement. This is the problem, though. They can also be ripe breeding grounds for predators. And that's what happened here. You have this group of despicable, sick individuals who should have never been in law enforcement, who use that to as their playground for finding victims. And they found Sandra Birchmore.
Richard, do you think the father should be identified to put it to rest, at least for the community, saying, hey, it wasn't one of these people associated with the Explorer program. We're not going to identify it, but this, does it need to be, does that person need to be identified?
Doesn't need to be. I think always more information is better than less. So to complete the circle, I think it would be beneficial to everybody to say that on. As noted, obviously the defense is going to jump on that, which, you know, it creates a speed bump. But at the end of the day, he thought he was the father, and that's enough of a motivation there, I think. I just wanted to highlight, too, what our investigator just said, because it's just so crucial to understand that any profession that has interaction or the potential for interaction with our youth, you have to screen so closely, because these types of individuals and pedophiles are attracted to those jobs in order to groom people. very quickly, I have a client, and I had a case that went to trial this July in Massachusetts. She was a 14-year-old who was raped repeatedly by a deputy police chief from a local town when she was 14 and 15 years old. We went to trial. She's a superstar. She's a hero. He got convicted. He's in jail now. But the entire trial was painting a picture of her life. She's 35 years old now. So she listened to 20 years of shaming on the stand and came through.
Yeah, just, it is despicable. You know, you have people who we trust as a society to shepherd these young people, and they take advantage, do the exact opposite. Richard, thank you. Up next, on opening statements.
Your Honor, at this time, the state intends to seek the death penalty. This is a capital case. We're asking that he be held without bond. In addition to that, he has a bond out of circuit court. We have filed motions to revoke those bonds that will be heard later in the month of August in circuit court.
Austin Drummond accused of killing 4 family members. This one's a strange case. Is there enough proof to support a death penalty conviction? Stay with us.
A former porn actor caught in a deadly father-son love triangle.
I'm not going to stop fighting to prove my innocence.
The Love Triangle beheading trial. Live coverage today on Court TV. This week.
Get your day started with true crime and trial drama. Each morning, we'll take you inside the country's biggest cases before we take you inside the courtroom.
Opening statements with Julie Grant. Mornings at 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
To know that murderers come down through here, I mean, yeah, it's scary. Who could have done that? Who could have left a baby at it somewhere with strangers outside in this heat? I mean, who would do that?
Authorities say that quadruple murder suspect Austin Drummond did that, and they say he'll be facing the death penalty. But did he really do that? Lake County District Attorney General Danny Goodman tells Court TV that Austin Drummond has also been indicted on 4 counts of first-degree murder, 4 counts of unlawful possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, aggravated kidnapping, and possession of a weapon during the commission of a dangerous felony. He's accused of killing 4 family members. It's horrible. Then taking an infant and not killing the infant, abandoning the infant in Tennessee, basically saving the infant's life in this chaotic situation. But the questions people have is, could there be other people involved? We know he has a history with the Vice Lords gang, and he was exposed as a prison snitch. So the alternative theory here is that this was the gang sending a message. Now, Austin Drummond, not exactly a model inmate. He says his behavior behind bars in the local jail includes covering his cell door with feces. And guess what? And he's been a problem. He was moved to a state prison while he awaits trial. Very rare you see that. We saw it in the Richard Allen case up in Indiana. They moved him to a state prison, not because of his behavior. There was a question of why they moved him. But in this case, they didn't feel comfortable with him in the county jail, so now he's at the prison. He's facing the death penalty. Criminal defense and civil rights attorney Casey Early is still with us, and criminal defense attorney Franz Borghardt. All right. Death penalty. He does have this weird, like, okay, he saved the child, so people maybe think, Franz, you shouldn't charge him with the death penalty. You shouldn't go after the death penalty because of that one good deed that he did. What are your thoughts?
So in our country, in most of the states at least, 1 vote for life is enough. 1 vote for life in the penalty phase is enough to give someone life in jail and not the death penalty. And that vote for life can be based on any mitigator, any reason under the sun that one juror wants. And to your point, Ted, that one saving grace of this individual might be enough to get that one juror to vote life. It certainly doesn't necessarily exclude him from being a candidate to being prosecuted for the death penalty. And look, I'm not saying that at some point they won't offer him a plea for life, but he's in a really, really precarious ship right now that has a lot of sinking holes and leaky parts to it. So candidly, if I'm on his legal team, I'm trying to find any reason in the world to get to life.
Yeah. Casey, he's got the state trying to kill him. Apparently the vice lords, maybe, because he's a documented snitch. He's in a world of hurt. Do you foresee this thing maybe pleading out before trial? Because on the other, from the state's standpoint, this gang activity and him being a snitch, it could be used by someone like Franz, who says he'll do anything for his client, to create some reasonable doubt, right? That maybe the vice lords did it. This was a statement. Who kills their, cousins and their relatives? Your thoughts?
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, you don't need motive, but you certainly need to prove your case, each and every element, to the exclusion beyond a reasonable doubt. So what are the elements and what is the evidence that's attached to it? I mean, this is a good case for the defense if you want other alternatives, other explanations. Like you said, the vice lords, that's a gang. They're known to kill relentlessly, and they're known to do that to family members that are closely attached to their subject. And then you have that he was also a prison informant for law enforcement. So who knows who could have had a hit out for him? So there's so many holes that the defense can poke into the state's case in chief that can possibly save his life. But on the other side, if he is found guilty, I don't see the fact that he, quote, saved the baby is sufficient to spare his life, because he took 4 lives, right? So if the death penalty is not enough for being found guilty, although I personally do not believe in a death penalty because we know that the system is flawed and there's innocent people that are found guilty all the time. But this is the law that we live in, and if he's found guilty based on the overwhelming evidence, then that may be sufficient for that, because there were 4 lives, and condolences to the family.
Yeah, absolutely. One would think on paper there is that. There's also you could argue, I mean, if he's off his rocker putting feces on his door handle at jail, that could save his life too, of the penalty phase. There's a lot going on here. A death penalty conviction, as we saw, Nicholas Cruz, Brian Kohlberger. I mean, he got out of the death penalty. It's definitely not a slam dunk by any means. Let's listen to the defendant in court saying, "I want a speedy trial."
As long as it's not related to the facts of your case or anything that could infringe on your Fifth Amendment rights, I'm fine with that, sir.
I'm just wondering, is that the time we need to ask for a quick speedy trial?
Well, now that I've appointed you counsel, any motions that will be filed will go through your attorney, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay.
Franz, he wants to go to trial. He wants this done. Your last thought on this one?
He needs to slow down. This idea that he needs to go to trial quickly and speedily, while it sounds very, very great, if I were him, if I were advising him, I would really encourage him to slow his roll and let the system play out. He's not going anywhere, Ted. He's not getting out of jail anytime soon. And expediting a conviction and possibly a death sentence is not something that I would encourage him to try to accomplish.
Yeah, one would think that time is always going to be on a defendant's side, especially in a case like this, which is so horrific. 4 lives lost because of, according to the state, his actions. Thank you both. Enjoy your Wednesday. Appreciate your valuable time.